I'm doing great. See, I'm here.
Yes, I'm sitting up there. Recognize you. Must be the camping.
As this slide goes up. So that's what we're asking. So we are going to begin, and I'm going to introduce myself. So I am Drake Shelton, principal here at Jefferson, and I'm going to pass the mic, and then we'll start in with some get to know you.
Hello, I'm Steve Effers. I'm a senior project manager on the Jefferson project for the Office of School Modernization.
Hi, I'm Sophie Knudsen. I am the principal in charge at Boa Architects, leading the design team.
And Doug Miller, an architect at Other Architecture, one of the members of the design team.
Ayana Horn, project manager at CPS on Jefferson Modernization.
Maria Pascal, I'm senior director of the Office for Modernization, which is basically manager of the Wonderful.
Good evening, everybody. Lorna, South Buffalo Voice. I'm a senior director at school for a group of schools that includes Jefferson.
Hi there, I'm Margaret Calvin. I'm one of the assistant superintendents of the district and a proud former principal here at Jefferson High School. So, and a parent of a Jefferson High School student. So glad to be here tonight. See folks, good to see folks.
Committee made a decision.
These are the body of people who have done the work, who presented it to a committee of folks who made final decisions. So there's layers to it, but these are the folks here who kind of did it, and they'll all talk about their parts and what they play in it, and then making it to the folks who obviously make the ultimate decision, if things go or not. And I think that's what you're asking. Yeah.
I was supposed to make those. Okay.
So the team of people, there's a team of folks. So let's start. I'm gonna start in by asking questions, answering questions. So there's a team of folks who make decisions around this bond. As you're gonna see, it's well over $200 million worth of bond money, that are taxpayer money that we have to figure out, okay, how do we use this to modernize Jeff in the best way possible? What this team of folks did was create committees. So the DAD committee, you guys know what I mean by that when I say DAD committee? DAD. So the DAD committee, they held, and tell me if I'm wrong, in this monthly meeting? About every 6 weeks, okay, there you go, about every 6 weeks, community meetings to talk about the progress of Jefferson and the modernization. So there's a committee of folks who were invited, and all 3 members are welcome to be on that. And so every 6 weeks, they gave updates of where we're at with the bond, where things are going and where things are moving. Then we would have community meetings here at the school to talk about like the progress as well. So this is a group of people that kind of started that work off. I know that, you know, we did this presentation earlier today with our Jefferson staff, and you know, we talk about when people are presented with things that have changed, that are changed. There's things that we get emotions, right? That emotion that comes on. And then there's that until we get to acceptance, right? There are all these different layers until we get there. And I'm not saying that you have to accept it. So let me just say that. So let me just throw that out there. What I'm asking is, during this presentation, they have a slide deck that answers some of the questions I think that will come up. And
I think everybody here really, we're not trying to get no bull jazz about why we're going to there. We're trying to figure out my truck.
Well, I'm saying, I don't think everybody here is not trying to figure out why did you guys get, or give us a good reason of why you got our kids going to Marshall. I don't think no one is not a good reason you're gonna give up, right? I think for us, we're trying to figure out how can we keep our kids here? So skipping all that and get to the point of how do we keep our kids here and maybe go to new school on the football field, stopping the project as a whole to keep our kids here. Because what happens is if we move our kids out, we lose sports, youth sports die. I don't know if you guys went out there and seen all the football players. Those are youth football players, right? They go to schools around here. Tubman, Oxford Green, that's where they go. So guess what? They go play at Roosevelt, they go play other schools because they're not gonna make it out there in Marshall, right? And so that's why I'm saying the slide is cool, whatever. But I'm saying I think that we should skip it and move the swing site stuff of that on questions of concern, and you guys answering what we really want to hear before we start talking about the slide, because the slide is going to tell us you guys get out, and it's going to be about the money, right? But I think we all want to know what's the solution to keep our babies, our black babies right here, because Lincoln didn't have to go, the white baby didn't have to go, and if we got a line full of white people, not to be disrespectful, but we do, and we're talking about black kids. And so that's what I would like, that we can go there.
Thank you. Thank you. So I think that in respect to my brother, Mr. Lawrence, they have a task to do by coming up front to be able to present the reasons why, because maybe everybody needs to understand the reasons why, right? And so I gave you the mic because right? And I want to make sure that folks understand there was a whole process in this and it wasn't just about one single thing. And I think if we're able to get through that piece, we will have time at the end to answer any of the questions that have to happen. I think that when we talk about our Black babies, and this is part of my intro, and then I'll pass it over, and how do we keep our Black babies here? We have one of the lowest enrollment of freshman classes the last 3 years, and it continues to trend that way. And so when we talk about keeping our Black babies here, what I want to do is figure out how do we get them to even walk through the door? Because when they come here and we have 8th grade parent nights and we go to the middle schools and we offer Jefferson, and this is a true story, they say, I don't want to come to Jefferson because I want to go to Roosevelt, I want to go to McDaniel, and I want to go to Grant. Because they have the options of doing that. And that could be one of the problems, right? But when we talk about how do we keep our Black babies here, the reality of it is our Black babies really aren't coming here. They playing football out there, yes. But then when they get to make the choice of high school and what high school to go to, when me and you were going through Jeff and I was at Grant, it was 1,700 kids here, Black babies. Because they chose to be here.
Black babies, that's 500. They still my Black baby.
Right.
I have 17.
Right.
17
Right.
was not just
Gentrification, all that. Yep. Gentrification happened. There's a lot of reasons for why that's happened. But what we want to talk about and we want to get to the point of is where are we at right now with the modernization? What do things look like? And these are the options that we have on the table. And I know this can be a heated conversation and things, and I just want us to respect that, right? That they have a job that they're going to come do, they're going to present. And then after that, we then talk about what's the next scenario and how we play that out. So I don't know if we're ready. Who's ready to start with it? And I can.
Oh, I got you. Oh, there you go.
Thank you, Greg. And I really hear, I think we hear what everyone's saying, and we want to really try to respect your time and move through this pretty efficiently. This is a much shorter version of how we presented in the past, because we really want to focus on that discussion at the end. So I move very quickly through the land acknowledgement. Greg kind of gave an opening statement. We'll talk about the budget and pricing to give you a kind of walk you through the stuff that kind of Drake and a lot of the community representatives that were part of the process went through. Then we'll talk about how that impacted the design and what our plan is going forward, and then really focusing on that student site, which I think will be a nice segue into exactly what you're talking about, that student site discussion. What are the options? So just very quickly, land acknowledgement and anti-oppression statement. Appropriateness will strive to strengthen our relationship with the Native community and Native nations. The symbol of this commitment is a land acknowledgement. These statements bring visibility to the first peoples of our collective home. This statement is meant to provide information and context while also encouraging all of us to reflect on our current day relationship with Native people and Native experiences. We acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the traditional land of the Chinook, Clackamas, Kalapia, Multnomah, Wasco, Kaplumet, Bellic, and Manila. We also know that many other tribes make their homes along the Columbia and Willamette rivers. We honor their history and acknowledge the sacrifices they made. Let us also acknowledge the robust present-day federally recognized tribes of this area, the Grand Ronde, Siletz, Cowlitz. In addition, I'd like to acknowledge the Chinook Nation, who has been seeking federal recognition for many years. The urban Indian community is made up of tribal diversity that originates from around the country, representing 400 tribes. Urban Indian community has a vivid history made up of people whose journeys have brought them to Portland by way of forced displacement or seeking more opportunities. Today, these tribes and communities celebrate their heritage, showing resilience and tenacity that would be generally admired by their ancestors. Within Cleveland Public Schools today, we serve students and families representing more than 150 different tribal nations within our education system. It is our obligation to teach accurate information, past and present, about the impact of colonization on our students, all students today, and make visible the multitude of Native families in many diverse ways Native communities and families are living in the present. We encourage every person to reflect on their own history, understand the history of colonization and genocide, and support Indigenous sovereignty, priorities, and actions. This acknowledgement is one step that we can take to improve our support of Indigenous communities in the area. In addition to acknowledging the land and those who have been here since time began, we must also remember our stolen siblings from Africa, whose labor built the vast wealth of this country. These two communities and the atrocities committed against them are intrinsically intertwined due to our existence within a white supremacist world. Everything we have is due to stolen land and stolen labor, and every system and institution that impacts our lives is built upon this legacy. It's our job to seek that truth into spaces so that we can begin to heal. So this is, again, just kind of a reflection of this student focus effort that we're making, and I think Phil really said it very well at the beginning. So we're going to transition to talk briefly about the schematic design budget and a pricing update, and Stephanie Houston from Bora will lead that discussion.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm here with Doug from Lever. We put these slides together. As you can see, Doug's got a bit of a cold, so he has graciously tried to protect us all. I'm going to be more of a mouthpiece, and I'm going to stand next to Doug so he can punch me in the arm when I forget to say something we plan to say. So we wanted to just open by acknowledging that there have been a lot of people working on this for over a year. While we'd like to be able to share everything about what we're doing and why we're doing it, we know that you all don't have all of that time. So we've been trying to figure out, what are the things that are most important to talk about today? How can we keep it digestible? But understand that this is really the tip of the work that we've been doing, and we really want to hear questions if we miss talking about something that you're interested in. So for any of you who've been at some of the meetings before, you may have already seen this diagram. But for those of you who haven't, or who are new to how the design process happens, it's a bit like trying to draw a face early on in the process. You really have kind of a ghosted image, a bare idea. You may not know much about that face, but as you go through the process, it starts to add detail. More and more, you start to be able to see whether the face might be female or male. Maybe even by the time you're done, you have some personality. As you can see, we are here. We're very early on in the process. We're far enough along in the process that we've been learning a lot, but we're not so far along that we know everything. And I think the difference between drawing a face and the design process is that we're drawing a face of something we've never seen before. Basically drawing input from all the things that it needs to be. So as we're doing this, we're learning as we go. So part of what we do while we're learning as we go is also having to manage budget and the schedule. As you can see early on in the process, there was an initial budget that was in place. That budget was then updated as we got closer to the project to account for the rising costs from the pandemic. And then it was updated a final time just before we started what we call schematic design, really to account for what we learned through the initial planning process about what the school needed and the process that we were going to go through and the increasing costs. So we continue with these checks periodically. So even though we're all working together to design to a budget and with all of the programmatic requirements and the academic programs, we still want to make sure that we periodically stop and check and make sure that we're on target. And so we did that. We had an initial estimate that came in about 20% over budget. Now that's relatively normal. There's a normal part of the process where we check at each at each of these phases. And those overages tend to get lower and lower as we continue to refine and prioritize the design. That initial estimate was frankly about right on target. But as we did that, we also really dug into the very complex nature of this project. The existing building is difficult to work with. It's over 100 years old. We were also, in keeping the students on campus, we had to be very concerned about how we can build around students safely and how we can build in such a tight area with some partial demolition and some new construction. And once we really dug into how that would happen, we got an updated budget. And that was a real wake-up call. It was significantly more complicated and more difficult than any project Portland Public Schools has done before, or frankly, any of the projects that we had to compare it to. So from there, we took a step back and we said, how does this compare with other schools? Maybe it's just part of the trajectory. And you can see on all of the schools along here, these are the other Portland Public Schools in this line here, and the average represents some additional comparisons that we did with all sorts of schools in the Pacific Northwest region that are of maybe similar size or have some similarities in complexity. And then here's the budget for Jefferson. And then over there, all the way up in the corner is where that wake-up call estimate came in at. And you can tell that we realized something was really out of whack. And we really had to take a step back and reconsider what we were doing with the project.
We would be.
I have a question. We're talking about budget. So
We can't go.
I want to level that, right? What was it?
Like, she wants us to finish through that slide.
No, I want to ask a question though about this piece of it, because there's a nuance. We know that Jefferson is has been neglected for a long time. The dilapidation is not the fault of the community. It is the fault of those who are in part of making decisions. So I just wanted to know, is that a factor in when we're looking at similar buildings, similar things? That's a nuance, right? When we're talking about demographics and dynamics and culture and the history, how many times have Jeff been trying to shut down? Like, there's a whole bunch of things that are being considered. Is that being part of your benchmark?
Actually, no, because the only part of the existing building that's remaining is the original 1909, and all the rest of the additions that happened are actually being demolished, and so they really don't contribute, whether they have been well maintained or not well maintained, don't contribute to those costs. I don't know if anybody else has anything to share. So yeah, the short answer is no, they don't.
About the slide as well. Are these numbers the actuals, or are they? I mean, in order to have a true idea of numbers, we need to factor in inflation.
These are all numbers that have been escalated to, or have been, they're all, we use the term escalated, but they've all been increased so that they are apples to apples in today's dollars. So we're not looking at something that was built 12 years ago and trying to compare it with cost today. We took the numbers from 12 years ago and we factored in all the cost increases so that it would be as if it was built in today's dollar.
So why is Jefferson, maybe I missed it, one of the last ones to get remodeled, the one that needs to get remodeled most. And so money's running out, but the budget's saying. And then you said that the freshman class has been deteriorating the last 3 years. So why would Jefferson be a priority? That's what I want to know. Like, we have this money. Why did Jefferson get put at the top of the list since the school is falling apart and the kids aren't coming here? So why would that be a priority to the community, to you guys? That's what I want.
They've never been.
Is that what I'm saying? So what's the answer to that? Well, I want to know. Where's the priority for our kids? Where's the priority? You said 3 years the class has been deteriorating. So that says something needs to be done. So why is Jefferson at the bottom of the list?
So I think that, let's answer that, and I think that's a great question. Like I said, they want to get through the PowerPoint.
But we want answers.
Right, and we'll get there.
But
I promise, we'll end
no, they're not more important.
That's not
Keep saying they want to get back, they want to get back. But they want to do it and more important than what we do.
6:30.
But it's like you're putting them above us, and that's not fair for us in our community. Keep saying what they want. they are more important. But her slide is more important than their question.
Keep calling the discussion, but it's just a patient. We're supposed to move it here and you present your ideas to us and feel it through us. I mean, we've seen this before and everybody here wants change. Everybody wants the school to be first. So nobody's afraid of the change. It's how you're going about the change that is impacting us. Like, I mean, personally, a lot of our parents are not gonna be able to drive the kids over. A
Exactly.
lot of our parents in the bus system, there's a lack of and shortage of bus drivers right now that we're not considering. Impact, I always say, hey, for those that are doing extracurricular activities, and they're gonna be penalized. At best, they'll waive the late, right? But at worst, they're still gonna miss the learning opportunity that is given early on. And that's the issue. It's not change. Everybody wants a new school. It's just we don't want our kids to have to miss class and then be penalized. If my kids are late, I want somebody to write a contract that it was okay because you didn't have enough bus driver. And you learned that for the last bill. We learned that. And so we've seen all this before. Boy, Jim at Grossville, the Benson bus transportation issues, lack of drivers. Every morning we get a text that you don't have enough drivers. What's gonna change today? Are there more drivers today? Are we gonna have enough drivers? And are we gonna stop and be late to work to drive our kids over there? We have the least resources. Our kids don't even come here because they got pushed to Benson and all the schools, right? That we're newer. Yeah, I went to new school. That's part of the issue.
So in this presentation, and I get what you're saying about presentation versus that. We want to have a discussion. And I think.
We're not really having a discussion.
And we're not. And so I think, but I think, I know what's in here, when you talk about bus shortages, when you talk about transportation, that's in this conference, that's in this slide, right? But if we don't get there, then you won't know we've had meetings all summer.
If it's in the slide, they have the answer, and if the questions are gonna be answered by the slide, but why do we have to watch the?
There's a
slide?
human
It's
here,
the question.
instead of a projector and a computer, GPT and whoever's doing this, I have a human being right here with a human being asking a question. And it's answer the question. It's a discussion. Okay, let's call it a presentation and don't call it a discussion, because right now, everything that you're saying has nothing to do with a discussion.
Yeah.
Has to do with a presenting, like we're teaching to kids.
Right.
We're adults that are gonna be impacted by this on top of our community.
Because then you guys are gonna be impacted. Once you build it, you're gonna go into your next building. We're gonna be impacted.
That's a decision it's made.
They're gone.
I'm gonna be here.
We need a.
I'm gonna have to
That's
drive
why I
my
told you from the
kids.
get-go. I told you guys from the get-go. There's no reason for you. They're not saying it.
I get up
I
at
did.
4 in the morning,
I'm trying to tell you.
my kids can't get to school.
Let's have a conversation. How dare we keep our babies here?
Is the Marshall decision already final?
If it is final, then we have nothing else to discuss, because that's what we want to talk about. I don't think anybody else, we all want a new school. We love that we're getting it done.
Right.
We're mad that we were the last.
Yeah.
The bottom line is that, how do we keep our kids here? Because history has told us that you will lose furthermore kids from coming here. Above and beyond the gentrification, above and beyond our kids being pushed to aggression, above and beyond everything that is happening here. When you bust them, you lose them.
Yeah.
And if you keep them, they don't learn as much as if you were here.
Right.
Because they will miss the first, maybe second period, third period. And on top of that, ain't nobody paying me $400, $500 an hour to take an hour off to go over there.
Yeah.
All right?
And we've been broke, so we can stay broken board. So we've been having a raggedy building. But we'll stay with this raggedy building before we want to take our kids out there. So that's why we want to know the answers of what is our option to be able to keep our baby here. We don't want to let.
And if there's no option, then we just say there's no option, the decision is made, and then we'll listen to the presentation. We'll go on.
So can we get people who?
Why have we until the next year started for the kids for this school to start seeing changes? Why does it have to be that now it's the next school year that we're being impacted in this way?
Shouldn't be
done during the summer when the kids are not.
That was the only ask. Lincoln kids get to stay there, Roosevelt kids get to stay there. We learned that they were able to do it. We have a bigger footprint. square footage wise than any of those campuses that were allowed to stay on campus. I mean, and you can research, I'm sure you researched that.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I mean, it's all, that's what's all in here, right? I think.
I have all the answers in the human beings right here.
If that's the case, why can't they just slide forward to the slide to answer our question? Instead of listening.
And especially at the beginning, already reading about sentence and text.
She's about to answer the question.
I don't want to hear them talking like a robot with slide.
Right. I think she's
Not
about
the
to,
answer.
you about to answer her question. I think she's about to. I should. Give her. All right.
At the percent, we got another. But your percentage.
Okay, let her, I think she's fine. One of them.
Thank you. I don't want to cut off the discussion, so to the extent that you want to continue from having a discussion, I'm happy to stop if you want to continue talking, but the question was asked, I'm going to answer it. Has the decision been made about moving off site? And has the decision been made about moving to Marshall as the swing site? The answer is yes. Yes, the decision has been made. Yes, it is Marshall.
And it's final. So
That is final.
Yeah. We're taking the box. I mean, that's it. Nobody really had an input. The only one thing we want is to keep our kids here.
And then what happens?
So we-
They go there to school
So where's the third?
and it's no longer Jefferson.
I mean, I want a new school. Okay, thank you for the new school. So when my kid is late next year.
Why weren't the parents?
Trade-offs.
I said a question. I didn't watch.
I like how you stood on the country and you did that as a white lady in our neighborhood, that people said, you guys are going out there and that's final. Like, that's not cool. That's not cool at all. You don't really care what's going on in our baby. And that's not fair to you, and I would love to know your name and your stuff, but I would like to take this therapist, because that's not cool that you tell me conversation over, take your little black kids out there, and if you whatever happens to you, happens to you. Not cool. But that's that. Have all the information. My question is, why would you guys go through all these things without informing the community when you guys found out that it changed the mind of still being able to stay on campus? But we were very true throughout time and time and time, and everybody said, don't worry, the kids will not have to leave campus. So the moment that the money impacted to where the kids have to leave campus, that's when you should have this meeting. But instead, a bunch of white people got together
Colonizers.
and said, okay, let's figure out how we can save us our money. Well, the best way to save money is send them out there and then we can do it. Not getting together, let's talk about it, because they made a decision with all those things, believing that their kids would be in the building. Now that changed, our answers may change. Now we want to vote on, we want a new building on the football field like Lincoln did, and we want to stay here. That's what we want. Or what? We want it to stop. We don't want it. You can't make me have it. We don't want the new building then. If you're gonna make us leave, we don't want it. You can't make my kids have it. That's not fair. That right there is the point of just pushing us out of our own community.
That's what happens here.
That's what we do. Because what happens is this. Those kids that's on that football field, you straight to dump over Jefferson High School. Two, we're gonna lose about 200 kids. That's gonna go to brand new Benson, brand new Roosevelt, brand new Grant, instead of going all the way to Marshall. But guess what? We're gonna have a big where you have David Douglas and Reynolds kids filling up the Marshall campus. Not our babies, not in our community. But again, for you, that's not cool and it's not fair for you to say, this is what it is, shut up and take it. We don't want to take it. We say, stop it, and we don't want the new building. We don't want it, we want our kids to stay here. That's just what it is.
After when they said they were gonna have open discussion, they were gonna have a meeting, that people could come and have something to say. The meeting never happened. Why is that?
And why get a
We're supposed to have a meeting, then we stand up, and we can have discussion and have some input and say something, and the meeting never happened. What was that?
We're not giving you input.
It's
Because the
already
decision
made.
already made. So why did I get a text?
Why you guys just spending the money doing all these designs and all these architects and designers and all that, wasting money just doing that? It makes no sense. Spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on architects and all that.
They get back on this, and now we gotta get kicked out. You think it's like.
Who decided that the decision is fine? Who said? She said, but who do we need to talk to about this decision?
Right here.
Who do we need to talk to about this decision being fine?
Young lady has, her hand.
Hey, she's doing it, let her talk. I don't know who she is, I need to talk. No, I know Sam.
Before going to Jefferson, I didn't know a lot about the school because I had just moved to Portland, and so I spent 2 months contacting people and researching my options on what school to pick. And I have a twin sister, and she went to Grant. And what I wish they had told me is that the district treats our school like an afterthought.
There you go.
Our classes are a joke. We are constantly treated like the scum under the district's boot. They do not care about us. And from a summer camp I went to with other PCC students, half of them don't even know our school is in their district. They don't even know that we are part of Portland. And seeing the education my sister gets compared to me is horrifying. We are all part of Portland. And on top of that, when I went here, I have spent the last 2 years setting up, being able to complete PCC's entire math program. I have gone through so many challenges. All administrational, mind you, to be able to take math class, which you think would be something they would encourage from students. And so had I gotten more notice, I would have changed my plan and graduated early, so I didn't have to go to Marshall, and I could instead go to PCC. But you tell us when it's too late. We can't make adjustments going into the school year. I was gonna double up on classes, but because of a district rule, we are not allowed to take more than 1 social studies class. We would have to go to night school to avoid going to Marshall. That feels unfair, and it feels unfair that we were promised that we would get to take these PCC classes, and in sacrificing AP classes and a nicer building and a better education, that's what we got in exchange. And we are pushed out of PCC classes. There are so many boundaries, from class timing to pricing, to the amount of credits, to how it works with extracurriculars. It is not a well thought out system. And then on top of that, you're gonna move us and make us commute 45 minutes or only offer certain classes. And I just feel like we were lied to when we picked the school. And it really, I love this school and I love this community, but it's so hard to recommend a school to other people that I love when the district treats us like this. It feels unfair, because I was told I would be able to get my associates by the time I graduated high school. And then now I'm 45 minutes away from you.
Thank you. Right.
Why did they send back? And I expected love to be a discussion. And they were looking at input. But she said that it actually would never happen. What you just said was, it's not up to date. But that's what they, why they got to. That's what.
Somebody want to.
But doesn't matter.
We can't hear anything she's saying.
She's asking who else she's trying to say, are you guys asking who else can you talk to right now, right? Right, who else can they talk to above this group that's here to kind of say, we want to stop this? Right, I think that's what.
Oh, I got another question, I got that thing.
I have a question. That's nothing.
Go stop.
I'm getting my, I'm in the down with this community. How many people on the block advisory committee made the decision about the design?
That's not true. Let's be honest. The advisory group did not make any decisions, correct? Correct? Correct?
You
There
know,
was no decision making by anybody but, yeah.
were there any parents or students within Jeff on any of your committees?
Yeah.
No,
Were there any students of Jefferson High School on any of your committees?
that's just moving part.
You know, if those answers are no, again, doing a disservice to this community and to the students at Jefferson High School. You can't make decisions about kids' lives without including them in that process. That's what we were taught. That's what we teach our kids, that you have a right to make a decision about your life. And if you don't include them in the decisions that you make that will affect them, you did a disservice to them.
I'm sure it's great to have some parents there.
100%. She got a question. Melissa, yes.
I might cry.
It's emotional.
I'm just gonna say, and I want to respect a young man's privacy, that you all know that you're getting in this school. When school starts, and I wasn't even, I'm gonna just tell you that there are some people up here, is this the school board? Okay, I didn't think so, because I met the school board. I met the school board because they apologized to me for not giving my own, a relative of mine due process after constantly suspending and the school to prison pipeline is real. We were pushed out of this neighborhood recently, and the only reason my loved one is attending this school is due to the right to return program. I find this hilarious that 2 days ago, I saw this email that you guys were switching the location of this school. And I agree with everyone in here. I missed the whole meeting. I came from work. But this is their community. There's got to be a different way. You're going to deny them of a free and appropriate public education because something's going to get messed up. Somebody's going to miss the bus. I heard on the video, etc. But my loved one's been in 18, this is because of this, it's gonna be his 18th school placement change in 4 years. Okay, and I'm shaking right now because some of you up there know how curious I am about this. And to be given a choice a few weeks ago and not be told that for several weeks this has been discussed. And I had to tell my child and prep them, and I was told that we'd have a year and a half of planning for this transition after the kiddo. Okay, that didn't happen. Why? Because they forgot the transfer paperwork for a while, and they forgot about them in Synergy this past February. We don't even live in the district anymore. I should be happy that the new school's closer to us, but I'm not, because this is wrong. This is not okay. Nothing like this should have happened to my son, and I believe there are rights, and I'm happy to join forces with anybody in this room and look into them, because I filed for due process on this district twice, and I'm happy to do it again. Class action.
I want to say one thing. I just want to talk about myself. Although, this Albert, being one of the respected,
Thank you.
Welcome back over.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Albert has been the principal that is well respected, and you've seen the struggles even when I was in school here, and just you might having our kids in this area in the community. So, did you have any input, or did you have any input? Because you knew that there was going to be an uproar with these families and having it, and not saying that you don't have our back, but it just kind of feels like when it comes to this and you knew we're gonna have an uproar, I feel like, I don't know what was happening in the room, but nobody has just back. It's only the parents, it's only the community, but as the PPS board and all that there's nobody that can stand for us and stand behind us. And not actually that. I know that if it was the grant school, they have a whole population to where they can become a PBS. And I just really feel like our school is really just get actually lower in, and as far as, if you being around for so many years, I felt like you should at least have more of a say so in the leeway when it comes to what's going on around here.
So. Okay, couple of things I wanted to share. First of all, I've been in this cafeteria multiple times when we've had really hard conversations about the future of Jefferson. So we've had times where we've talked about like is the school gonna close, which is a constant undercurrent, right? Like I understand that. So I'm gonna respectfully, like I'm feeling the emotion and I'm not disagreeing with you guys at all. I think that the challenge, if there's a real challenge here that we have to resolve, and the piece. When we talk about, the question was asked, like, what is the order? The bonds were passed in specific order, schools were built in an order. I've heard this before too, right? And you know, why in North Portland is Jefferson the last state to be modernized? It's a real question, right? And we know that there's an impact. What I would say is in thinking about this, we're at a point where this is gonna sound hollow. I'm sure, is that there's a point about everybody says that we want a modernization, and the path to getting there is where and it's in the details of that path that we're gonna really need to work together. The reality is, with the cost. And that's right. That's right. So I think in this moment,
Home down to even do the acknowledgement or the anti-oppression statement. That was completely so that you acknowledge that. That's so progressive. Very.
so this, I'm going back to Marty's question. That's right, because Marty said, how much say did I have? That's what, so Marty, these are decisions that there are recommendations that go. Do I make the decision? I do not. I do not. And so I think that's part. So I got you. I understand.
Y'all dropped it great. You said,
Yeah, no, that's all right.
Never had the meeting where I said, then they made a decision, and then they're gonna have to come here and pay for
They didn't know that. That's true. The last time we had a discussion about funding, right?
Yep.
Where made the mistake to come here, then there was an issue, right? And so that's why they're not here today. And this is the same thing. Like, you know that it is, right? Push it aside and we understand you're in a position. But you have to.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You don't have a choice. They don't even take that. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
We said, no, they should see it.
That's right.
So the main question is, what can stop it? I guess that's the main question. What can stop it? Just back and forth and all that.
Are you?
It's not true. Like they talk very specifically, have a trade-off about the fact that it is about a new building. Or it is about just budget and keeping kids here. That was never a discussion point. We didn't have priorities, but we did not make a clarification about what our preferences were. And when y'all make this decision, if you were true to everything you are saying about the sameness, performative stuff that you all do around racial equity, around all these things, we wouldn't be having an informed discussion. We would be having another, when you make a decision that is different from the decision that was made, you come and you re-engage. You explore what solutions or options there are. That's what we're asking. So it is contact.
We're just asking for-
And it is unfair. And you all know it's unfair.
I think everybody is asking the ball. We're all asking for a ball. We're all asking for a ball, right?
Yes.
Stop, we asking for a ball. I got a question, somebody text that's what's on fine. So, why did the contractors take so long to
let us know that the kids was gonna have to move. Why didn't they know at the beginning that they was gonna have to?
Right. I mean, it's not surprised, they didn't do it for how long?
We both knows each other down. You're gonna win. You know, it's most of it. Look at 1996, bro. Go ahead, we want you to speak. Go ahead. Go ahead. Question. How about the budget?
Emotions come up, so we're upset, but for y'all, this is a job, it shouldn't be no emotions on y'all side. That's the reality. You guys are put in the position, you guys are the ones that have, that's not y'all, the attitude for the entities to show up to the community is again, it's professional discrimination.
What do y'all doing with the bill?
Go ahead.
Okay, so the question was essentially, why did we not know sooner? That, I want to make sure I understood that.
No, it's not seen to us.
We did everything that we could, to keep kids in the building, because that was what we had said we were going to do. We did everything we could. But, and that would have been part of the presentation. As we worked our way through the design, you get further in design, you start to understand better what goes into actually doing that design. To keep kids here meant we were having to support a 4-story unreinforced masonry building immediately adjacent to digging out, to demolition. And the cost of trying to do that, to keep kids safe in the 1909 buildings was so great that it was $100 million. On top of the other costs associated with trying to move kids around, which is not a great experience. So,
So if there, so each of kids here
mhm.
say, you don't want the building anymore. If there are options, just feel urgent.
That is one of
Right now. Hey, I'm not.
We did. We did actually look at the options. We looked at several options because we were doing everything we could to figure it out. So let me tell you why that's not enough. Because that pushes out the construction so far that the cost of inflation makes it so we don't have the money to do the public. So it's not an option. It's not even, it's not effective. We don't have the money to do it.
What about cost?
People, their families and their jobs.
Come on, girl.
What about people
Come on, girl.
depending on their relatives to help with their
Come
kids?
on.
How do you get your kids? How many people have your kids? And I'm talking to all of you, kids. Do you have people to help them when, are
No.
are you a single? It's
I'm
not
a single
even
mom,
personal.
too.
The fact
You
is,
say you're
hypothetical. Okay,
Come on, baby.
I'm a nurse. And do you know how many teachers I have in the intensive outpatient program for mental health right now? There's a lack of resources. I'm not trying to attack you. It's real. We don't need to interrupt. There,
Oh, you're talking to me?
and I want to know more about why PC is an option. There's
So-
not a good enough explanation there.
Yeah, we got some folks with some hands.
Yeah.
And I think this is where we were at 7 o'clock almost, right? And I know this was for 6 to 7, but I know this is a topic that we need to finish, right? Have a conversation. At some point, though, we have to come with, we may not get the answer that we want to today. We may not get the answer that we want to today. As you guys ask these questions, these are all great questions. These are all things though that, again, we all thought about, right? And it's hard to accept or it's hard to hear bad information. And this is bad information and this impacts our
Well,
kids.
it's hard to hear that a decision has been made
Yeah.
without.
Having to. So, I'm gonna get you, I promise you, I promise you. So, what I will do as a principal, what I will do is let's talk to the team. I will talk to the team. I will figure out when we will have another, we got to have another discussion. Because at discussion, not presentation, discussion. But we have to, let me finish. But let me finish. And then there's somebody that had their hand up. We have to figure out how we bring this information to a place where we can accept whatever that information is at the end, because you guys ask questions, who made the final decision, who needs to be here? We got to figure out what that looks like, right? In order to get this community, as the person in charge of this community, this learning community, I hear what you're saying. And I have to now, on me, and you guys listen at me, y'all know me, right? Some of y'all know me. But some of you don't. So, yeah, but how do we bring this back to have another conversation, a discussion, but the discussion may lead to we're moving to Marshall. And that's what we have to understand. Now, question though, real quick, question, then use, questions.
My name's Ruth. I attended maybe 5 parents that attended the Zoom meeting 2 weeks ago, where we listened for an hour and a half to all of the specifics of how they have got to this point. When I asked for accountability around how a $291 bond became with $291 million bond, with $200 million over budget. I did not get an answer other than we're working hard. We've been working hard. We're doing our best. So the accountability is still in question. My daughter is going to be a sophomore. She's committed to the school. She loves Jeff. She loves the community here, just like everybody else. It's going to level the community to go to Marshall. This is, you don't just automatically come here. When somebody on the meeting said, well, my kid went to Franklin, eventually kids trickled back in. The teachers are going to leave. Who's going to be there when our kids miss a bus? Who's going to be there when somebody's car breaks down? God forbid there's an accident on the highway. I understand the kids from Jefferson and Grant, or Benson and Grant have had to deal with that too. I would like to know, thanks for listening. I would like to know if what we're telling you tonight, that we want accountability, that we want different spaces, if you are going to be able to pause and reconsider. I do not have faith that the evaluations that you have made, given what we're seeing now, the result of a year's worth of meetings, and I'm on the design advocacy group, and it's been a lot of people there too. So my question is, given what we are saying to you tonight, are you willing to go back and look at this again and bring back, work with us in a way that gives us real choices for our community and look at other options for things? I was at the meeting. I know what's going on with the permitting for PCC. I understand the Kenton property, and I'm still not satisfied given where we are right now, that the people who have been working on this, and there were 20 people on that Zoom meeting that were all, their names, they did not say who they were working for, but there were only 5 parents, and you listened politely. And I'm feeling like there's a lot of stonewalling happening again, like this is just where we are, and you haven't been given enough information, and who is accountable. We don't want to have this conversation, but you telling us how hard you're working.
Amen. Amen. Okay.
Really like Franklin goes back, so they're neighborhood school, they ain't got nowhere else to go but for Grand as well, right? So that's why that person said that about Franklin, we don't have neighborhood school.
Yeah,
They want to ask that question, are they willing to call and take it back to people?
Can you answer my question?
Who's gonna make that decision?
What we've heard and what you'll be able to offer us instead of.
It's not as if you're just gonna tell us that.
Like, is there anything around my question?
In your.
And
Yeah.
I could definitely change, I don't know about it, work or, yeah.
Well, it's like,
So.
Wait. Yeah, that's the question. When do you guys answer that question for?
Okay, sure, I did actually introduce myself, manage the fund department.
I'm sorry, a little bit louder than they.
I manage the modernization office. Yes,
You're not another. We want to start with everything.
I'm actually happy for other folks to speak, but I think when it comes to accountability, I'm the one who wants to be accountable for the folks that work for me, right? So that's why I'm here to take that
Are
lead.
you aware that they just started a program that's a right to return and this is only.
Okay, Wait, she's gonna say that-
One other thing. The people that I have spoken to about a construction process and they say, somebody knew from the beginning. No way that there was a budget. They did not care. And if you have done this modernization for other schools, you know what these budgets look like, how much it costs to build a school, and then it's gonna take a lot more money to phase this than to do a smaller ones. That is not, again, I think it's a daily question. Do we get to choose to keep the Jefferson building, or do we have a new building so that we keep the kids on campus?
Let me answer the first question, and if you guys are, hey, well, you said, Paul. Come back to one. Kathy.
Okay, so.
Go ahead, do that.
Okay, here's the thing. We have a budget of $291 million for construction. That's all we have. To keep students on site, it's an additional $200 million. We don't have that. We just don't have it. So let,
So bad earlier, and what you do now, my question. I'm just saying, whether you want to change in how this is working out.
Come on.
Are you willing to take a pause?
no,
Back to.
because you don't want me to finish my answer. Would you like me to finish the answer?
I had a couple conversations with the only people talking.
You already said no.
I know because none of us are letting her finish her sentence. I know, I'm really mad at you. We have to let her.
That means no.
I know. Okay, come on, from this video game.
Everybody up here, have your skin. Be dirty, or whether it's a thought to think their kids dirty. I know it's not for him.
Yeah.
But they go to.
So, not in this.
Exactly, but you any of your kids go to jail? Nobody here. And we have a checkbook that if you're gonna go to jail, so that tells you from there. So then, well, we have, sorry, but it's true, that's true, right?
What does that have to do with anything?
I'm about to take it there. Are you just black or something?
Yes, I am.
Okay, but you can take a person.
No. I just want to, I'm maybe the only dissenter in the room. I didn't go to Jeff, I don't have children that go to Jeff. But when I hear people talking about Black babies and what our Black babies deserve, I think our Black babies deserve to be in a school that has modern technology. I think our Black babies deserve to be in a school
that is not broken down and dilapidated. Let me finish. I believe our Black babies deserve more than what Jeff can provide it them with today.
And are they gonna?
So
They're not gonna get.
there is a short-term loss in order to get a long-term gain.
Our Black babies are not gonna
That long-term gain is after 2 years, everyone comes back to the building and it's going to be in 4 years. It's 4 years. And then whatever amount of time it is, there are Black babies that aren't coming to the school, which has already been demonstrated.
Okay, I get what you're saying. Wait, I get what you're saying, but what I was about to say to you that have nothing to do with what I'm about to say.
Okay.
And like I said, your kids didn't go here as well. You're not gonna part of the community. So you getting that time that I say so was irrelevant. I'm sorry.
Sure.
So,
What I'm saying,
so,
I'm not trying to disrespect, but I'm just saying, like my point for me saying is, anybody can go to Jefferson, live in this community, right? All know, including him. Only Miss Towers, the only one. So that was my point of saying that.
Okay.
Okay. So I don't know, you kind of got real personal just now.
Well, people don't.
Appreciate everybody in here. And I think we all have similar feelings. I wanted to keep Jeff. I'm not Jeff alumni, but he is coming here soon. I have a statement and a question. Statement. You're asking for radical acceptance. It is what it is. Deal with it. That's also inflation. So if you're talking bond in 2020, now it's looking at 2024, the inflation been crazy. There's no way you can afford it. So what everyone's asking is to pause, not a hard yes or no question right now from somebody sitting here, not a new idea, just pause the thing with radical acceptance that money is more expensive. Money just costs more. Banks ain't got money. Bank of America gone, like it's boarded up. So what we want is a pause. And how does that process start? I think that's the only real question that needs to be answered tonight. Like 35 drink of big.
If somebody else call.
Yeah, go ahead.
The numbers you were talking about in the difference. When you talk about that differential, are you including costs of $100 million facade, brick facade in that number? Because what I never heard, if you're trying to preserve that, I don't think anybody was given the choice, what would you sooner have? And I got by that Lincoln campus every day. We could have done the exact same thing on Alberta or on Killingsworth. And it worked out well. The kids stayed in the school. So did you make that $100 million brick facade wall in your country?
No one ever got involved.
Yeah.
Not in chat series, it's not a appropriate thing to talk about here now. Pause. How do we pause?
So I think there are a couple of things there are a couple of statements and commitments that I can make personally. Okay, so I'm listening to what the statements are. What I'm hearing right now is the preference clearly is to stay on site. It's clearly a preference, right? We're gonna also run into there is a, can we get it built question, right? That's also real. This is not a trade-off and the question is there a way to have both in what we have, right? I mean, I know, and I agree 100%. People want our students to be in a facility that matches their brilliance. 100%, that's what we want. We want it in a community that feels like a community. So what I can, I cannot personally make it stop. I can't say that that is, that I can share that and say that there's a desire for there, because the question that I'm hearing over and again is what will it take to stay on? And the statement is that it's like, and this is not, I said it before, it's gonna sound hollow, it's cost prohibitive to do that, like we will not have enough money to build the school. So then what are what are the pieces that are in there? And I understand that I'm hearing different pieces, one around transportation, one about what does it mean for accessing no college classes? What does that mean for decisions? All those pieces is what is the information that will help. But the basic question of what will it take to do it here? I think that this is the part where I hear you with radical acceptance. This is, you're 100% right.
So, and back to Dave's question, I think the $100 million facade. Is that part of which making this kind of prohibitive?
So I think, so I'm going to turn it to the people that have the details on that. Part of what I believe was, there was a statement, there were a series of decisions, right? And one was around the 1909 part of the building, right? And so I think what I'm hearing is there a trade-off with that? That given where we are now with that trade-off, would people make a different trade-off?
Yeah, wait a minute, I put it in before you go into her.
Okay.
That's what happened, right?
Mhm.
So and are you okay with your student? I'm trying out, go to different schools when you know that there can be something, so is there an option for not partially in campus, but another area that's closer to our area to be the campus? And where would that be? All the way. So that's why going back. So another thing, I think, I know that's not it. I know, but is there for you?
So the question, I hear you. We've said is that is not in the space, the space. So here's the part that I would say to Marty is we looked at the options close by. We did. Could we move students to PCC? Can we do that? Can we move them to Kenton? Can we go to any other property that's nearby? And what we know from what's here is there's not a need.
$14 million they're probably and through the rest of the that's about recording. Wait, man, what the money was? Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Okay, oh, maybe on my side. By the time you have students that are left over, going to Marshall, you might as well put them in the video. Please, you just talk about current modernization. There were multiple options of some carnage, right? That we've been through. And the reason that the standing that 1909 building was the top priority that was not to be used, right? And I'm looking at it. Okay, so I mean, the question is, the real question is the why are we not looking at the other, why are we not evaluating the other design options? That was the next chapter. Given the realization that budget should not withstand, so we're saying this building can't withstand us.
Students that actually
Right, and it's are we talking about the importance? Could we revisit the designs in terms of where we actually have it? That's the question that we're wanting to go.
And she
Like,
said,
that's
no, because apparently it's like, by the time we get to that building, the inflation's gonna skyrocket and then we don't have money. But to me, I'm confused because that doesn't make sense when, I don't know, we were told in the modernization that building a new building is actually cheaper. People in construction in our building, making small talks saying like, this is stupid, y'all should knock down the building. That's way cheaper, right? So I'm saying, yes, I understand inflation, but if it's way cheaper, and then it does take another year to start, you have to put it back here, draw plans and then start building. When we break even, if it's way cheaper. We were told it was way cheaper in the modernization, like in
It's not.
like substantial stuff.
So now,
we did actually look at those options. We did go back and revisit the options with the stuff during the final advisory groups through all the months of time. What we found is there are things that make them comparable in cost if we already have the design complete. So there's a timing issue for completing a different facility. But beyond that, the 1909 building has some protections within it. And our ability to get approval through the city's permitting process to demolish the 1909 building, assuming that is what we wanted to do. Just by rule from the city rules alone, isn't even known. We know that already. That means that means
Why was it one of the three options to have or south or north? So it's not possible in front of the city and they're gonna deny it. Why wasn't it even up? That doesn't make sense. You were told this morning that actually it could be possible, but you had to have enough force that we didn't.
I don't think that's a fair assessment. We don't know exactly what will happen. So it would
It'd
be
be hard, it'd be hard to get it through, but it's possible.
Yeah, it is possible, but there would be an appeal process to do that. What we don't know is the timeline, so we don't know what it would take time-wise to actually go through that. And because every year it goes forward, adds on that cost of inflation. When you think about inflation for your personal expenses, that doesn't seem like very
You
much.
guys are operating out there the unknown. So yeah, that's a whole concept.
No, what we're operating off is
When you hear all this, you can make an appointment and get on the phone with the city planner any day of the week and ask that question. That's a phone call.
which you can like the document process.
So we actually have, we have calls with the city every week, right? There is a constant communication. There is a process with the certain and market commission where, depending on the type of the project, there is a people process. So the process for the option where we keep the 1909 building, that's a different process than the one where we have not again. And I think the statement that we could knock it down is correct, but then that triggers a whole series of other at a time. I think that it's absolutely possible, certainly if there's support to grow in the community, it's possible, but it just adds a different process. That's
We want to add that right. That's what we're saying. That's what we're saying. We want to add.
Why don't we have that conversation?
He mad. He told us that it's got.
Yeah.
Why it take so long to say that?
You've been saying no, all day, that thing is told us we got.
He's plain as day, it's an honor.
That's all he said. He said that we have a chance. We have a chance.
We see it all the time.
So we have a
Y'all see
chance.
the little public stains that
Oh.
happen on all these old buildings, it's a process, but it can happen.
It's a, we have a chance.
It's just gonna.
And it sounds like the fear that.
They're worried about time. Time and money, I'm worried about kids.
You need the project to go forward, and we can't afford it. The money.
The budget to go forward. We need to go forward. It's our kids.
Why? What do you need the budget?
Why do you need to go forward?
You seem really passionate about it. I'm not trying to even be funny, like, yeah. I mean, it is, if it had, it's within a certain timeline, you get a discount, but it's. I was at the Southwest, the worst. But it's.
Why is it a budget with high school?
Yeah, but
It
also.
wasn't no budget to go build that brand new school downtown.
Yeah, they got the, let's go back to that slide. They put that there on the wall.
Jefferson, I mean, at Grand High School, there wasn't no budget to build Marshall on 82nd. Why is the budget when they come to Jefferson High School and then come to the black community? All of a sudden it's a budget and y'all low on funds. Y'all have all this money. That don't make no sense. And I'm just looking in on the conversation. That don't make no sense to me at all. And you beating around the bush, he telling us yes, and you telling us no. He saying we can pause, you saying no. Why is
Then we
that?
have a chance.
He said, you.
All we want is a chance.
The city planner. You can get on the phone with the city planner.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my bad.
So I want to clarify, so. No, I want to, no, I'm not retracting, what I said is true. The process is different because it will be denied, if we ask to knock down the 1909 building, it will be denied by the Historic Landmarks Commission. It is a very different process.
Ask the appropriate questions. How do we get around?
So we know that, right? We want to get denied.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's your ass. You can't get the answer unless you ask. We want you to ask. You want to assume that's gonna be a no.
Over budget, and then there was money added on to another bond to ask for more money finishing.
Right.
Like, you go tell the taxpayers that you forgot, and then they can money.
Yeah.
Guess what? Just pause.
Their kids are not at stake, they don't have no impact at that, so therefore they don't give the.
So I think we just keep going round and round.
Yeah.
Right, at this point, we just going round and round.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think at this point, we can call the meeting to a close and figure out what the next process would be to have a discussion if we even need one, right?
Boy, this is the thing, and I'm gonna speak for my people. We're trying to figure out how to pause. And everybody here is saying something. She's saying no straight up, and you saying that we have discussion later. So what I'm saying is, when we're getting confused and thinking that it's a no straight up and nothing can happen.
There's no discussion.
What do we have?
Okay, got it, got it.
There's no reason for discussion.
Right.
That's why I'm going around and round and round.
Gotcha.
Saying ain't nothing that we can do.
So if it's no, then no, got it, got it. Gotcha.
Marshall High School has 150 kids. I mean, the end of the day, Jefferson High School dads, and we all said, well, really what we need to do is get a petition and find out what kids are going to transfer as we go to Marshall. And then guess what? Our staff is gonna lead, and then you'll figure out what's going on in Marshall. But when you go to Marshall, they'll know ahead of time. That's what needs to happen. We need to get a petition and think, if we go to Marshall, who would transfer? And at that point, it may just be the principal, the vice principal, and 5 kids.
Yeah.
And at that point, why would you even have a school? So forget about going back and forth with this. We know what they're doing. They're saying no. Well, it's time for us to come together, and make it happen on our own. They're not going to say yes. It's our time to get out, get petitions, and ride for each other and get letters out and get the movement out. We gotta use these months together to make them pause. Okay? They're not just gonna pause for us. We have to now, it's time for us to step up and make them pause. Oh, no, I don't worry about that. They think I'm they don't give a care about this.
Can we go back? Are you for that, Marshall? Right.
I'm not for one Marshall. No, nobody wants us to move. Nobody here wants us to move tomorrow. So that's nobody through all of our discussions. I don't want us to move to Marshall.
Why is she
For
not
the
willing
only-
to have a pause, so we can have input?
All of us know the impact of moving kids out of this community, and that's what we've been talking about since this all came about. So I'm answering your question, Martisha, if you want me to tell you. So if you're asking me, do I want us to go to Marshall?
I didn't
No.
know if you. Are you okay with us going to Marshall?
No, no, none of that. No.
They come over here and stay with us.
We all need to do something with you.
We're not dealing with that. You need to be with us. You down with us? Yeah, I'm not gonna get funny. You need to come with us. Because at the end of the day, our principal should be with us. At the end of the day, they don't do what you do in these hallways. When we talk about our babies, we're talking about yours too.
Right.
Like, I know your wife is riding with you and stuff, but she don't know what you go through in these hallways. We do.
I do.
We do. No, you don't see it, you hear about it. So no disrespect.
No, I do.
But I'm saying, I watch what he goes.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. She come in, she help out a little bit and they'll calm you down and make sure you move on. She comes up here with time to, do her.
No doubt.
But you go through it, right? So when people are asking, are you with us? You need to know if you're with us, right? Because what happens is, when people believe and people think, and I'm gonna sit on this, is you're against us. And me and you had this talk.
Yeah.
And so it's time for you to step on our side and say, I'm with this. I may have to deal with it later because of The answer is no, and we gotta go to Marshall, but you should be fighting with us to keep our kids here, and that's what people want. That's all. When she asked that question, she's trying to see, are you with us or against us?
Okay.
And then the problem is, they all said that they were not the ones who made the decision to move us to Marshall. Who did that? And who do we need to go back to? Is it the school board?
There's a group of folks, I mean, that's what,
No, they are.
there's layers.
No, can we have the names? Can we have the names?
I don't even know who to tell you the name of.
We got an email telling us that our babies gotta go to Marshall. Send us an email with the names and email address of the people who made that decision.
And they're wonderful.
I just wanna share one thing. And I think that, so we started and I don't know your name. Sarah? Say again? Rigo, nice to meet you. Originally, we started saying we all want a new school. That's where we started from. Right? And the reality is, this building has sat on this spot for over 100 years. For over 100 years, lots of generations of people. And part of what is, and when we started going through, I was here when we started doing that conceptual master planning process, right? And it said, as we were going through that process, people were somewhat reluctant to enter because it meant that we were looking for, like, it was like almost a dream. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was like, is this real? So people were looking for, is it real? When we changed when we redid the track out here, when we turfed the field, people did not believe that it was gonna happen. Right? Like it took a long time. I'm telling you, it took 12 years to make it happen. Right? It took a long time. So I think the question, right, like we have to come back to saying, what are the things? When we're building, regardless of whether we're saying it's going to be 3 years, 4 years, however long the transition is, yes, families are going to be impacted. Yes, your families are going to be impacted. And it's part of like, how are we building for the next 100 years? And it's a tension point. And we talked about, like, I totally understand, like, where do we have a voice? Totally, like, I hear you. You're saying we want to stay here. What are the options of staying here? What are the pieces around? What would it, and this is, I will put this out there, and there will be some reaction probably coming back at me, is what would it take to make it so that there was a move to Marshall, that it would be reassuring or they would be okay? I don't know the answer to that question, right? And it may be flat out, heck no, right? But as we go through and navigate, I think that's part of what we're looking at, right? Because we started with the statement up front, we all want a new school. That's what I heard. We want a school. And I'm thinking about, like, when we're looking, and I felt it. I watched the buildings go up, right? I watched Roosevelt get built.
Stop. Your storytelling is eating up time. It's ineffectual. We want to know who we can talk to and what the next steps are. The story that you're telling is not how do we get where we're leading. That's true. Stop the storytelling.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. And I'm going to respectfully disagree slightly, but I hear you.
You're saying
So
let's honor the 100 years of this building.
Why
We are honoring the 100 years of building and who has been in this building.
I do
We are just honoring who has been in this building by thinking about what could be or whatever. Like I said, I'm gonna go back to this Modernization thing. There was never the clear activity of what is the trade-off. If your children have to leave,
Yeah.
and if we are over budget, then make that decision. That was not talked about. So don't point back to you.
Okay.
I was there.
So I
Then
think,
the second priority, if I'm wrong, tell me if I'm wrong. The second priority is for children to stay. Amen. Thank you. And it was only because there was no other option. There was never the second point. There was never the, hey, if we are going to be over budget, and y'all, Jeff is last in order, like everyone said, budget. We all know what happens. Y'all all project managers, y'all all do this on a regular basis, especially you, ma'am, right? That's, you want time, cost, right? Like, we know how projects work. But the reality is, you didn't do it properly, so don't point back to a process that, again, didn't work, ineffective, performative. And don't think back, and I understand, great, you're a great storyteller, and I'm sure that's why you're successful here, and you have a great conversation here. But you can't teach, it's not. We just wanna know, we just wanna know.
The beginning of the process was, you knew that the building couldn't be torn down because city of Portland would not give us the permit. And we
That's not true, though. That's not.
we spent 6 months to think north, south, new, keep the building. If you knew that keeping the building was the only way to keep the kids on campus, but that wasn't possible, then all of the effort should have been going into how do we get this building built? How do we keep it minimally expensive to keep the kids on site? And that information was not given to us. Those choices were not made clear enough. That is on the people at PPS and anybody else. The contractors to know how much it's going to cost per square foot. So we want to start from the beginning, making a decision and let you guys figure out how to make that work. Instead of you telling us, we need to work with the dead end taking product.
That part.
So I think I'm here, I understand the request for like this. So that is something that we'll have to, I mean, honestly, we'll have to circle back to the folks.
One last question.
Yeah, I mean, I work in the construction industry and as an architect. I totally know how hard it is to get these processes. I also know that, you know, the objective of this project from the very beginning was to keep this community here and the program connected to DCC, because that is the lifeblood. Okay, that was your objective, that's the goal. So when it started unraveling for people, right, to find out basically where kids can't make decisions in time to make their life work out, right? It's like, that's really disturbing in this community. Okay, so I think you have to understand that. So then the next question is the so what now what? Okay. Is it okay? So you have this much budget. We know that. We're not going to go magically find more money. And you also have a time issue, okay? Because you do need to get these things done in a certain time. One, to fulfill for the community. And two, it just keeps getting more expensive. You're going to lose money if you keep waiting too long. But we have to know, you really got to reassure this community of one, if there is a way out to keep the community here, you have to exhaust all resources to do it. Because otherwise, no one here is going to trust you at all. Okay? You have to demonstrate that. You have to show us that you've done all that thing. Not just a short talk, and that will build faith. We understand that mistakes happen and that bad news comes up. I mean, construction costs over the last year and a half have just gone bonkers, okay? I fully understand that, though. It's hard news to try to then bring to people like that, because we get upset. But we really need to see that effort.
Construction costs go right now.
You know.
Starting the building process is what we need.
So I think, like I said, I think about 10 minutes ago, we come to a point, I think, where this is where we're at. There is no pause. I think that's been what's been communicated. And we figure it out from there.
So when are you gonna bring us? When are you gonna bring us to the next step?
I hear what you're saying. I hear what's been said. Are you all speaking for whoever makes the decision to say this is not enough voice to not pause it? Is that exactly what you're saying? This is not enough voice. This is not enough voice, like just because it's clear what the question is. Is this not enough voice? Reconsider and appeal. Is this not enough voice? When you say and speak on behalf of whoever the decision makers are, and not be willing to go back and say, we gotta figure this out again. This is really not their voice.
No, so I'm gonna answer that. Can I answer that, please, Michelle, please? I think this is more than enough work to have us come back and have a discussion about what that looks like. I'm just gonna be 100 honest, and I talked to Andre about it earlier. I don't have the power to say we're gonna stop. I don't. I don't know if anybody on this team does. But hold on, let me finish. But
Why don't we hide the ball with you?
this is, but as I said earlier, we need to go back and regroup and figure out what this looks like. And that's what I can promise, is that I'm gonna say, y'all, we need to talk, right? And I don't, let me just answer this for you. I don't know what that talk is gonna look like, and I'm not saying that talk is gonna get to a different answer than what you got. But I have more information based on this conversation. And so for us to be able to do this, I gotta go back to the folks that I report this to, right? And figure out what we do.
What's the timeline?
So timeline, I can't give you that.
Yes.
I can't, because I don't know the answer to it, and I don't want to sit up here and lie to you. What I can say to you is the timeline is that what I will do is we will group and figure out what that looks like. And once we regroup and figure out what that looks like, then communication needs to come back out to the community about this and this. Now, we know that you guys don't want a discussion. And I think but only if we can change the outcome. And I think that's bottom line, and I think everybody hears that. What I can do is, I can only do what I can do. And that's reconvene with this team and say, okay, what does this look like?
I'm gonna communicate. Like this email sign up, are you gonna do us follow-ups? Like I'm thinking like a project manager,
I think, I'm sorry, I just think, we want to do school, it's gonna be phenomenal, IT, technology, it's awesome. The issue has been is that we're coming here thinking that we've had input and we never did. So then people are upset when the decision's already made. And that's the only, that's the only issue.
Yeah.
No one was involved.
Yeah.
It was pretend
that
we were involved. That was a big issue.
And that's what I hear. That's what I hear.
That's what we think. And you be selling.
We're gonna end on a student comment.
Please, come on, talk to us.
I feel like, at least for me as a student, and obviously I do not want to move to Marshall, but I think what I want to know is the problem for me with the lack of notice. Like if I had been informed with more time, I could have changed decisions that would have affected, like this is going to affect the rest of my time at high school, and I would have changed decisions I had made about how long I would be staying at school. So is there a way to give students more notice so we can, like, we had our decisions and our choices taken from us by not being informed of it? Is there a way to give that back to us? Is there a way for us to graduate early, or is there a way for more senior students to stay on campus? Or like, I feel like students were brought to Jefferson and we were told, yeah, there will be a remodel, but you'll be on campus and not that much will change, and you'll still be able to go to PCC and your commute won't change. And now I'm told, no, your senior year is going to look completely different and there's nothing you can do about it. And you don't know whether you'll be able to take the classes you really want to take, and you don't know how long you're going to have to be at, like, it's a 45-minute drive and I have practice after school. So I'm going to have to wake up an hour earlier, probably because of traffic. And then I get home at 8 o'clock and start doing homework. Like, that's not sustainable as a student. And so you need to hear about what other options you have.
Thank you. I think that is a great way to close, and we will have more information.